I think people want to just know like the stuff that maybe you don't put out there for them, right? And
Yeah.
I think you and myself, we try to put ourselves out there as real as possible and allow ourselves to be vulnerable because that's kind of how I would relate in, you know?
Yeah. We're live, we're rolling. We got Travis Clay, aka Travie Swaggy, aka T Swags, aka T Clay. What's your Instagram?
T Clay 2021.
Aka T Clay 2021. What's up, bro?
What up, Tommie? Babyface Tommie.
Babyface,
Babyface
Babyface
Tommie.
Assassin. One of my favorite nicknames you gave
The
me.
babyface assassin. That's correct, man. How you been living in quarantine?
Dude, been making the most of it, man. I mean, I'm not working right now, so it's like a lot of free time and just, trying to stay busy, trying to stay active. Like, I think I've adjusted well to the quarantine, to be honest. Like, I feel bad for a lot of people who are having a tougher time. I've adjusted well. What about you, man? I know you're super versatile in your workouts, your training, your business. So you've been adjusting well. I mean, I know you got kids and everything, so it's a little different, but
Yeah, I mean, that was certainly probably the biggest adjustment was having the kids home at all time and myself and my wife being at home and actually all four of us being at home together in the house has probably been the biggest adjustment. And then also the schooling, the homeschooling factor has been has been something that we've adjusted to over the course of the last 3 weeks or so. But otherwise than that, I mean, my wife and I both run our own businesses. She's a realtor. I have the fitness business thing. So working from home is not anything new for us.
yeah, yeah, and I knew that. I knew you do a lot of guys. Travis, if you're listening, because I'm gonna put this out as a podcast and a video. Travis is a personal trainer. He does online training, in-person training. He's got Weekend Warrior, which I'll let him talk about a little bit more. His business, which he does a lot through that. So yeah, you've had how's the online training and stuff like that been going? Like since you transitioned to pretty much just all online and stuff.
I feel like I've been blessed in that scenario, right? Like I started the online process, I want to say like a year and a half, 2 years ago, with it just me putting content out there and putting stuff on YouTube with not even really the notion that I would use it later, but it was more to just grow a YouTube following. And all of a sudden, like everything kind of just fell into place as far as um, my express training option. And, it, I can't believe that something like this has happened. And I've actually been able to hit the ground running because I put all this work and effort into it beforehand. And it's been a pretty smooth transition with regards to that. I had initially started that whole process of, online as a kind of like postgraduate training from the one-on-one with me, the private sessions, or even a group session to either complement someone's training who had graduated or may wanted just a little bit more here and there, in addition to some of the group training that I provide, or they just felt comfortable enough to be able to take that on the road because they travel, and that would be a viable option for them to continue training while they were on the road. So
Yeah,
um,
I remember when you started, making like the content on YouTube and just uploading stuff to the library and stuff like that. But dude, it's like taken off, and I can only see it, especially from something like this growing. But like, have you seen a lot of people jump into the online fitness during like since the quarantine, like from a personal standpoint? Like, have a lot of people reach out and be like, hey, like I don't know what to do. Are you offering online training? I mean, if people reached out to you, does it seem like it's becoming really increasingly big? Considering what we're going through.
I mean, I would like to say that I'm somewhat unique, but I know I'm not. A lot of the trainers that I follow, that I admire, they have things like this put in place, and the ones that continue to be successful or that are successful have put some sort of structure into place where the transition has been pretty seamless. Um, even you look at your Globo gyms, and their transition has been relatively
Yeah.
seamless as well. They've gone from live classes to just live online classes. So as far as clients reaching out to me, I haven't had the, I want to say, the demand that I had anticipated. I think there's still this level of uncertainty that's going on right now, and people don't know whether to jump in
Right.
or, well, let me give it one more week. And so a lot of what I try to work with clients on together is just like self-awareness, right? Like things that we can control and not waiting for the perfect opportunity.
Right.
And I think that's kind of where people are at, right? Like it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't look the same. Therefore, I don't think I'm going to get the same type of workout or be able to do things the right way. And then we kind of get that like F it attitude about things too.
Yeah.
Like, well, if it's not going to be perfect, then F it, I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so walk me through like when I guess just when you first started training, if you don't mind backtracking a little bit and we'll get back into kind of everything you're doing now. But like when did you become a trainer? And I remember, I mean, Travis has got a pretty cool come up story about, being, let's talk about it, I don't want to spoil it, but just about being a client and then getting so involved in it that he wanted to become a trainer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but just walk me through and walk people who are listening through your process of figuring out, okay, this is my passion. I enjoy, the helping people aspect. I enjoy training myself. So walk me through just like the process of you being an overweight client, basically, and from to where you are now.
Yeah. So I actually started Weekend Warrior. I think you can see it here, established in 2017. But my journey started way before that. I'd have to say, let's see, it's 2020. It started back in 2013. I've always been an athletic guy. I played sports when I grew up, continued that through college. And then as life began to happen for me, circumstances, so to speak, that's when the fitness and the training and pretty much everything health wise got thrown on the back burner, right? Like graduated college, got a job, started off with the career, went into personal finance, financial planning, that sort of thing. Met my wife, we got married, we had 2 kids. My friends who I used to work out with, few and far between, we all had our own lives, right? And so what used to be us working out in the evenings together was, either spent trying to drive a career, or it was spent, changing diapers or with the family. Or what my wife and I were doing, we were literally passing ships at the front door. Like we would pass kids at the front door and she'd go off to her work. I'd come home and man with the kids. And, through the career, there was nothing but like lunch and learns and happy hours and late nights and fast food in the car in between meetings.
Right.
And, a very sedentary lifestyle. I was tired because I got stuck in that cycle of, not working out or not being involved in some sort of intramural sports, and then eating poorly and then sleeping poorly, and all that just kind of like, it didn't all happen at once, but
Right.
over the course of many years, I found myself 35 pounds overweight. I found myself tired. I found myself kind of demoralized mentally, just kind of defeated. And I really didn't know where to start. I was fortunate and blessed, and I think everything, I can look back on my life and everything happens for a reason. And it's been amazing the way that it had to work out just so.
Right.
But in 2013, my wife and I, Tiffany, we decided that it would be best for our family if I became a stay-at-home dad. And that was kind of crushing to my ego, but it was certainly what was best at the time.
Right.
So I was stay-at-home dad, and at the time, let's see, we had Gavin was like a little bit over a year, and Kellen was just born in April of 2013. So I think in October of 2013, I became a stay-at-home dad. So
Yeah.
two young kids, and my sanity was going to the gym for the 2 hours of free babysitting. Like
Gotcha.
literally that was it, bro.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I had to get that, and it started with maybe like a half hour of like working out, and then just like an hour like between the hot tub and the sauna and
Yeah.
just like coffee and just sitting there and being like, all right, let me get my marbles back, one of those deals.
Gotcha. So
And
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So it just continued to progress from there, and I noticed like I started to get a little bit into shape, and the difficulty thing was I had never been out of shape in my life, right? Because I always played sports. So when I was training back in high school, so to speak, I was an in shape athlete.
Mm.
So the things that I used to do back then, that used to work back then, no longer worked
Right.
because I was at this point like 33, 34, right? Deconditioned, hadn't been playing sports, you know, was weak, I was overweight, I was tight,
Yeah.
and I really had no clue what to do, right? It was like bench press, curl,
Right.
like planks, and then maybe sprints on like the treadmill, right? But because I was doing that consistently and I tried to eat a little bit healthier, I started to shed some pounds and I started to notice stuff, but I couldn't get to the point where I wanted to be, right?
Right.
And that's where I hired a personal trainer.
Gotcha.
And for me, that step of hiring a personal trainer, what I initially wanted to do was be able to finish a hockey game strong because I play ice hockey, played since I was a little kid, and to not have like a crash at 2 o'clock in the afternoon every day. So that was kind of like the start of how do I do that?
Right. Man, so I think a lot of people can relate to that. Just like whether it's they're an athlete in like high school or college and they're used to training a certain way, eating a certain way. And like you said, just like life happens. And next thing you know, you're 30 pounds overweight. And it's like, where do, a lot of people don't have like the knowledge and the tools to be like, all right, like what now? It's been, because like you said, it just kind of happens. It's not like one thing. It just, kind of happens from sedentary lifestyle and just like life happening. And so I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I think where is really cool from where you're at is, and like you said, I think that it's super important to have like those lows, so to speak, to be able to then like they're pivotal in order to get the success and where you're at now. I feel like that's a little bit what you're describing. But what would you say to people, I guess, that were in your shoes and just are kind of in that like middle point right now of knowing they need a change, but not really knowing like how to take the first step, or they feel like they don't have enough time? I mean, I feel like, especially with the quarantine right now, is a good time for people to take advantage of being able to like, break that kind of sedentary lifestyle and get to that next step. So like, what advice would you give to people, and what really helped you kind of like spark like some change, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, people kind of have to get to their own pain point, right? It's always
Yeah.
like the best place to best place to start is at the bottom, So it's
Yeah.
everybody's pain point is different. For me, it all kind of came crashing down at the same point. I don't want to say crashing down, but like it was a series of events that happened together, and I believe honestly that a lot of people are going to hit their pain points when this is done,
I agree.
because
Yeah.
they'll be able to sit with themselves and their thoughts for a good period of time.
Yeah.
As far as suggestion goes, I mean, there's so much out there
Mhm.
that is available to you, especially through the internet. You can go searching, but I would say, honestly, the best place to start would be maybe searching the internet and finding somebody that has something relatable to you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And I think, for me, what I find and when working with clients is so powerful is the fact that, right, I have kids, I have a wife, I have a job, I've gone through that process. I have a transformation, story where I've lost the 35 pounds and I've kept it off. And, everybody has that excuse. I could sit here and be like, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. In reality, like, now I have more than enough time, but the things that I always said didn't have enough time to do, like around the house, I still don't want to do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's still stuff around the yard, around the house, that like I have plenty of time today to do, but it's not high on my priority list.
Right.
So, making it a priority is important. And, I believe that the number one thing is just to show up,
Yeah.
right? So just that has to be like a day. You just make a decision, like today's going to be the day. Like, you don't have to go into a week, just make the decision that today's going to be the day, and just get out there and do anything.
Yeah.
Right. And I always say start smaller, and just bite off what you can chew for that day, and then swallow it and worry about the next day the next day.
Yeah, man. I like that. It's good advice. I think it's important though what you said, just like there's certain stuff now that, you still don't want to do. So I think like for people maybe in this time right now or whatever it is, like just finding, I feel like sometimes people feel like it has to be like strength training or has to be like cardio. Like there's so many different avenues of fitness and health that you can go to. So many different diets that work, and so, and everybody's different. So I think people feel like they have to kind of like do like a one approach kind of cures all type deal. So I think that is important. Like you said, to find something relatable, and maybe how somebody similar to you did it, and maybe go about it that way. But on that note, so like, when did you find the passion for like fitness? Because obviously you were doing it and it was working and you were losing weight, like you kind of refound that. But when did you feel like, all right, like shit, I really enjoy this, I could see myself pursuing it?
Yeah. Um, you know, I've done a lot of self-awareness, self-evaluation, and I think the moment that I realized it was the fact that I began to share in situations. This was before I entered the fitness profession. I was sharing helpful tips and what I was doing or what I did, as far as weight loss and training, strength training, resistance training, cardiovascular training, nutrition wise, like all that stuff, with just everyday people and everyday situations.
Right.
I could be out, I could be down at the beach in the neighborhood, and somebody would ask me that, and I would be giving them suggestions upon that. Right. And it just kind of, when like you feel like it's just meant to be,
Yeah.
and like you're being pushed into that vacuum.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like you with the podcast and the powerful one, like that whole thing, like it just felt right. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you just felt like something was pulling you towards it, as opposed to you like pushing yourself towards it.
It's a great point.
And I believe like there's so many people that I look at in my kind of like age range, right? Where it's career driven, it's, marriage, it's kids. And there just isn't this knowledge or self-awareness of, I can't do things the way that I used to do them. Right. And
Right.
that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Right. But to become aware of the fact that I am 20 years older, I may not be able to ever do what I used to be able to do at 20 years old.
Right.
Right. But things have to go a little bit different. Right. Because I'm deconditioned, because I'm a little bit heavier, like I'm not going to be able to go back and do those same things.
Right.
Because, I am a little bit tighter because I sit in a sedentary position at work. I work on the computer, so I'm a little bit hunched over, and therefore I may not be able to do overhead pressing motions at this point. Right. So it's a whole new process of getting back. Whereas, it seems as simple as, let's just go and work out, and let's just go and just eat healthy. But it's real life application. Like why is it that I do the things that I do, and figuring that out, becoming aware of that, then, making changes, right? Like, why do I go at 4 o'clock every day and want to grab crackers? Is it because I'm stressed because the kids are coming home? Is it because I didn't eat lunch? I skipped it? Is it because I'm tired? So, like, figuring that stuff out, why you tick, and then you can put in something new, right?
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, no, self-awareness, like you said, is absolutely key. I think that's super important. Like finding out, like, because everybody's got a different story. Like, so that's why it's hard to look externally for answers. You really gotta like find it in yourself and understand yourself. Like you said, how you tick and stuff. That's important for sure. So talk a little bit about Weekend Warrior, why you started that, how it became and where it's at now. And I know that's your baby, so I'm excited to
Yeah.
talk about that.
I mean, I am a weekend warrior, right? When I was younger, I was the weekend warrior. I played sports on the weekends. Weekend warrior is categorized as somebody that rocks out on the weekend. That's totally me. Like, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I got a job, right? So like my like go-to time is on the weekend,
Mhm.
and it's kind of just, I don't know, it started off kind of as a little bit of a joke, like tagline type thing,
Right.
and it's just been like, again, it's like the personal training or like the podcast. It's like, why not, you
Right.
know and so it just kind of it grew from there, and it really started with just a small group of guys that were similar to me
Mm.
and just liked my story, and it's grown from that small group of guys to one-on-one private training to boot camps that began in my neighborhood and now have flourished into the gym, um, and then now this whole thing with express training, the online version of one-on-one private training or group training, and what I really want to provide people is kind of like I understand you, right? Like, I understand what how you feel overwhelmed, that you have no idea where to start, that you want to start with everything, and you've done this before but it's been unsuccessful, and kind of hold your hand more so through the process and be like, I understand this. Here is a way that I got to where I am now. And so it's been important for me to be able to provide that roadmap for people that do have kids, that are married, that are career driven, that may travel, to give them the opportunity to train and have nutritional awareness, regardless of the circumstances. And it's amazing again that here we are quarantined, and going through this pandemic that I would have never thought of over a month ago.
Right. Right.
And I've tried to give folks or provide folks with resources and tools that they'll be okay regardless, to be able to fall back on foundational principles that we've worked on, whether it's with training or whether it's with nutrition, for them to be able to do that in a healthy manner and live a healthy and active lifestyle, again, regardless of circumstance. So that's kind of been my purpose over the last, like 3 years almost.
And that's awesome. I always feel like what gives people, and I can hear it when you talk, I like how passionate you are about it, but I feel like the common theme with a lot of people, once they do find their passion, is that like they get it, it brings them fulfillment. And so like, helping people that are in a similar, maybe we're in a similar spot to you, or something like that. Like I can tell, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you feel like that gives you a sense of fulfillment? Like that feels like your purpose?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, and you probably can speak to this just as well. Like, when you find purpose in your life, like that's like the ultimate fulfillment,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
There's no monetary value that you can put on that.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. And people are like, well, why do you still put out like all this content? You're not really working and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's way beyond that scope of,
Yeah.
just that the training thing. Like, I feel like there's a purpose for me doing what I'm doing, and I get up and I enjoy it. Right. That's the wonderful part,
Yeah.
enjoy passing along the stuff that like I've gained knowledge about or may have been useful to me.
Yeah, man. And that's like why I think this platform's cool. And that's why I wanted to get you on for a while, is because that's like the common theme with, I think, myself and everybody who I have on here is like, basically they would do it regardless of if there was money involved. Like they feel like this is what gives them power. This is like their purpose, their calling, and this is their way to like empower other people and make them feel powerful. So that's why it's perfect, dude. It's like you found what you love, and that's priceless. And so,
Yeah.
I dig that a lot, man. So how hard is it to, balance, and we were talking about this a little bit off camera, but how hard is it balancing, marriage, kids, and a business, and just all of that, and still finding time to train and still finding time to, be with yourself and spend time alone?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good question. For me, just recently, over, I think in July or August of this past year in 19, I actually hired a business coach because I felt kind of overwhelmed and didn't necessarily have like direction in my life. I mean, I direction, but I'm the type of guy where if I see a squirrel pass through, like I'm going that way, right? and I kind of felt like I would put all my eggs in like one basket, and I wasn't able to, and I hate to say, for lack of better words, like wear all many hats, but
Mm.
it's something where you do have to prioritize certain things, right? And I am a dad and I am a husband, and family is super important to me, and I could say those things, but my actions were showing differently, right? Like it was drawn more to the business or more to training. And I would say like I was doing this stuff so that I would be able to be with my family, but I was taking on training clients, in the evening time. And
Yeah.
I was like, that's when I got into this, that's not what I was going to do,
Right.
you know? And so the greatest thing, and I think one of the greatest assets that you can have is humility. And
Mm.
I know I've heard you talk about this a number of times, like to be humble enough to be like, I don't know the answer, and to
Mm.
ask somebody for help, I think is, you know, you will benefit greatly in life by doing that. So
Yes.
the fact that I was able to hire a business coach, and she has been amazing in regards to helping me organize my life.
Yeah.
And we worked on this thing called oh, what is it called? She's gonna kill me if I can't remember this. Um, it's where time blocking.
There you
Sorry,
go.
time blocking. And I talk to my clients about this. Be
Yeah.
able specific times, for specific things, and
Mm.
putting them in your phone or your calendar, whatever you use. And so my wife and I started with a calendar. It's called Cozy. It's an app on your phone, and we literally put stuff in there and we live by it. And if we need to change something, not only do it means we're saying no to something else if we're saying yes to something.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to change, like the time when I'm going to train, I have to put that somewhere else as I change it. I can't just leave it to
Gotcha.
chance. And if I'm going to, if I want to be a family guy, like I put in, family time, dinner time with the family. I shut the phone off at like 8:30. Like it's just going to have to wait. And I've heard you talk about this in the morning time, not checking the email,
Right.
right?
Right.
So not just having like all this urgent stuff in your life, right? Doing things intentionally.
Yeah. Dude,
Um,
I love that. It's so funny you said that, because I was talking to my brother about that the other day, because he's been working from home, and I'm out of work right now. So I just been talking to him, and I asked him the other day, I was like, when you sit down for work, how do you not go back and forth between projects? Like, how do you, stay like laser focused on one thing at a time, and basically like chunk or block off times to do certain things? And he was like, I caught his attention because he said that was the thing he struggled with the most. And so we were talking about that. But yeah, bro, I think that's huge. Like dedicating certain times to certain things, like that time blocking. But I really like what you said before that too, just about the humility. Like I think the one common thing with very successful people, at least the way I view success, is that they're like willing to ask for help no matter what. Like all the best coaches in the world have coaches, you know, all the best athletes in the world, they still are, you know, being coachable. Like you talk about it in sports all the time, like the best athletes and the best like teammates are the ones who are like able to be coachable. And I feel like that kind of athletic premise, you know, can transfer to the business, and just like being able to be open-minded and being able to, like you said, just be humble and have that level of humility, I think super important. And I could tell, and I know that you have it because I know you, but even like you said about having to check your ego about being like a stay-at-home dad, like that's a big thing that I think a lot of people, you know, maybe wouldn't be okay with at first. So I think that's a huge component to any type of success, man. Like you said, is having some humility for sure.
Yeah. You know, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a coach. Like in my situation, like I found that to be extremely useful.
Right.
But you know, reading a book and or listening to podcasts. I mean, I have gotten into so many podcasts, including yours, and like it used to be just straight music when I was working out, right?
Right.
Like pumping music, that
Yeah.
sort of thing, and it still can be, you know, in certain workouts. But when I'm slowing it down a little bit in training and I throw a podcast on, like it is so like not only am I learning stuff, but it's also so motivating. It's
Yes.
crazy the type of stuff that you pick up within like an hour and a half of training
Yeah.
session that you wouldn't have like otherwise, right? I even started listening to books on tape because otherwise I'm not dedicating the time, or I just, you know, I'm tired in the evening, or there's other pressing things in the morning that I want to get to. So that's an opportunity, you know, an hour and a half of my day that I should be filling with value and not just
Right.
like, you know, club music.
Dude, I think that's so important. I feel like, and when you see people who are at like the top, however you view that, like that's a common theme, is like they're always like racking their brain. They're always, you know, they're never falling victim to just like wasted time. Like they're always finding a way to like understand something better, gain some sort of knowledge or understanding of something. That's something I'm working on every day, but that's cool to see that you're at that level, because that's huge. Like, dude, think about it. I mean, like, you know, wheel time and stuff like that can just be wasted. Like, if you can turn that into some productivity or learn something from it, like that's huge. And that's part of what I'm trying to do, you know, with the podcast, is just like have it be some sort of value, like whatever it is, you know, and people, if they listen and enjoy it, great. But, you know, as long as a few people listen and can maybe gather something, like learn something from you, learn something from me, then, you know, build that community. And I can tell that that's what you're trying to do with that Weekend Warriors, like build that community too.
Yeah.
So talk about, I know you're huge on social media. So how like has social media helped your company and your business?
Well, I mean, that is the way of, you know, how people are talking to each other, right? I
Right.
mean, you could look at it literally right now. We've been taken away from our normal social situations, and people have adapted, and I believe like it's going to be even bigger, you know, on social media, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and especially if people are using it correctly, like it is supposed to be social. Like you see people, I've seen some of the funniest memes I've ever seen, and you know, we are, and I think we're going through like a very difficult time because we're not able to socialize in
Yeah.
the manner that we have. You know, my wife, she's done these Zoom happy hours, right? Or like with
Yeah.
her
Right.
sisters, or and like we're jumping on and doing Zooms here and there, and like I feel like that avenue has been able to expand so much more. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, the ability for us as like one dude or another dude from like two sides of, you know, Severna Park,
Right.
to be able to influence or affect change, you know, around the world, right? It's not just like in Maryland. It's not just like in the Annapolis area. Like it's literally around the world. Like you have the opportunity to do that, and
Yeah.
it's such a big stage. And it's not just reserved for those, you know, like The Rock, who has 30 million followers, right?
Right.
There's opportunities out there for everybody, and I've seen some really cool stuff by just, you know, searching that. And I think that goes back to getting started, right?
Yeah,
Like
man.
you can go on Instagram and just go through and you'd be like, oh, I like this person's style. And it may start with just like what they look like or what they wear. You know, they may have some good swag, right? Um, and then it kind of goes from there from the story. But like, how else would you? I mean, the guy that I admire a lot with his training right now, and actually am using a program, he lives in California. Like,
Yeah.
how else would I be able to train with somebody? How would I have found him?
Right.
You know, I found him on Instagram, and I eat his stuff up now, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at yourself, right? Like, powerful one. How would you be able to, be able to help and provide value to people, you know, otherwise?
Yeah. It's true, man. It is. It's definitely true. Yeah, I guess going off that, I mean, what do you feel like you've learned the most in the past couple weeks being like quarantined to your house? Like, what do you feel like you've been able to take it away as a positive that you'll be able to use going forward?
I think it's been the ability to sit in uncomfortable situations or feel uncomfortable
Mm,
and be able to just sit with that, you know? There's so many things that we cannot control right now,
yeah.
but there are so many things that we actually can control.
Yeah.
And being able to decipher that has been wonderful. Um, and for me, it's given me an opportunity, I think, to really expand on a part of my business that um, otherwise I probably would have just been working. We talk about working in our business as opposed, or working on our business as opposed to working in it. And I think like when I'm in the gym and I'm training one-on-one or groups, like I'm working in my business. I don't have the opportunity to work on it. So a lot of the stuff that, I've wanted to do, but just maybe haven't prioritized it or time blocked it correctly, or just haven't had the time to do that because I am a family guy.
Yeah.
Um, that's something that I'm going to come out of this, I think, even stronger. Um, I think it's been wonderful to be at home with my family more.
Yeah.
It's been amazing to be able to teach them everyday things like life skills. We've
Mm.
we've, we've taught them how to dial 911 from the cell phones.
Tire shoes, all
Um,
that one.
we are teaching them the states. They're learning a little bit of Spanish. They're learning to cook, clean, do laundry. All that stuff has been super cool. But to see them in a learning environment has just been like amazing as a dad, and just be like, man, these kids are like super smart and they're growing up too fast. Like one of those deals.
Yeah, bro. That's sweet. That I mean, like that. At the very least, I mean, for anybody who has kids, I would think that that is worth every minute of quarantine. Is just being able to like see, like be able to like understand your kids more, like help them learn and see the way they learn. Like, bro, that seems priceless. I mean, I've found the positives, but without that stuff. But I would think that that alone would be enough to make this all worth it. So that's cool, man. That I figured you were doing fine with this. You always have a good you always have a good outlook regardless. So
I've had my moments where and that's where I have a close network of people,
mm,
right? And I think that's important too. That these are not yes people. They're gonna tell me how it is, and they're kind of like my rear view mirror, right? Like I can't see it because I'm in me, but they can see it because they're outside, and they're willing to give me suggestions, that I can take or I don't have to take, but I've learned, through some pain, right, and doing things the incorrect way, that they have my best interest at heart, and I encourage, your people out there to certainly have a network of friends or family or colleagues or folks, training partners
yeah,
that they can get real with. I think it's super important. And my wife and I believe, have become closer through this whole process of just being like, man, like I'm just gonna lose it today,
yeah,
and we're able to talk each other off the ledge. But I think that's important. We're missing that connection, and I believe human connection is such a big part. You know what I
Dude,
mean?
absolutely. So how have you found that for you, and who is that for you? Like a good social group and a good group that you can that kind of help drive you, and like you said, aren't yes man. Like who is that for you? And then also how are you able to find that? Because that's hard to come by, and I think it's so important, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, so my business coach is one. I obviously, you know, my wife being one, and sometimes that's difficult because you know the two, it could be the two of us that are just
Yeah.
butting heads, right? Um, but she's a good one for me to just air the dirty laundry with. But you know, I have some mentors in my life that I can reach out to. My parents, they're always wonderful to talk to, and man, it's funny to talk to them about, you know, technology and stuff like that. You know, now they have to order groceries online, and you know they have this Zoom stuff, and you know, I have some pretty cool brother-in-law that I'm pretty close with, and a new one that I've become closer with. Um, and so, you know, there's just there's some folks in my life that I feel comfortable enough to get real with,
Yeah.
and you know, we built the trust up where, you know, they it's wonderful that, you know, I can listen for them and they can listen for me, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be that suggestion. It could just be, I just need to talk it out, right? Because sometimes when I'm just in my head, things are crazy, but when I
Right.
release them out of my head, you know, it's like, oh, that's kind of silly.
Yeah. Well, dude, that's something I feel like a lot of people are feeling like. I mean, we're social beings. Like we thrive off social interaction, just like us as humans. But I think people are taking like the social distancing as like I can't talk to anybody, I can't do anything. It's like, bro, we're on Zoom right now, like
Yeah,
talking. Like I've FaceTimed more people in the past 2 weeks than I ever have. Like I feel closer to a lot of people that I wouldn't normally talk to because of this. So if anything, it's
yeah,
brought me closer to people. So I think that's cool that you have that. And I would encourage people to like, bro, like we have these computers in our hand and these computers like at our fingertips that to call anybody and everybody. So yeah, dude, I think and that's something I don't know about you, but that's something along with like reading or something like that to kind of like start the day on the right foot is like I'll honestly start the day by like FaceTiming or calling somebody with really good energy, like a friend.
yeah,
Just like that's been such a powerful way for me to just be like motivated. Like after this, dude, I'm just gonna knock out content because I'm freaking motivated because like I'm talking to somebody with similar energy and like it's exciting. We have goals. So like I think for people too, just like having you know a friend that you can talk to that motivates you, that alone is huge, man. So I'm glad you have like a good network and support system like that. That's awesome.
yeah, bro. I mean, part of that is you, you
Yeah.
know. I get to watch you. You know, I sit there and I'm like, what is Tommie reading right now? By the way, what are you reading? Give
So
me hit me with this stuff, because I see you sitting there with your feet up. You know, the
yeah,
river's
bro.
right there. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah, I got nothing else to do, so I've been reading a lot. I'm rereading for the second time How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a book that helps me with sales, but just also with like dealing with people. And I'm reading another book called Judgment Detox by Gabrielle Bernstein. That's really good. It's basically just about understanding why we judge as people and how to kind of like combat that and at least just like being able to witness your judgment without judgment. So understand that like we judge, it's like part of our nature, but understanding like and trying to dial it back. So that's what I'm reading right now. But yeah, man, reading, I mean, like at the very least, like I'll get out of this quarantine with a better knowledge and a better reader. So just trying to like make the most of it for what I can. But what was I gonna go with that? What were we talking about right before that? I think it was something I was gonna say.
hmm. What were we talking about before that?
It's all good, man. I guess we were talking about just how people can influence us, but no, man. Yeah, reading for me has been huge too. Let's I guess
Oh,
I'll
we
just
were
say
talking about what we were going to come out of this thing, like, you know, stronger, more positive, that sort of
right.
thing. Having a group, like a network of people that have like-mindedness and
Ah,
good energy.
yeah. So that's what I was gonna say. Like, dude, watching like your stories on Snapchat, or sorry, on Instagram, of you just like out there, like, because sometimes if I'm on Instagram scrolling through stuff, it means I'm not doing anything productive, which can be good and bad because it's like I'm checking in on other people and be it like social interaction, whatever. But at the same time, sometimes I'll be like lazy, haven't worked out in a day, and I'll see you out there killing it, 2 kids, a wife, like a business that's still running, and I'm sitting here on my phone not working out, watching you work out. So that shit motivates me. So at the very least, using social media as a positive kind of external motivator has been big for me. And
Yeah.
like I said, and that ties back into having like people around you that motivate you, because that's just a form of you, in turn motivating me is huge as well.
I put something out recently. I think it was like one of my warrior talks or something like that, where motivation to me it's so tied to my emotional state, and I can be like so high or so low, and like if I'm feeling good, like yesterday it was sunny out, like
Uh,
we got school, the e-learning started, so I didn't have to come up with some lesson plan. The kids were like in a good mood. The wife was in a good mood. I started a new workout program. Like everything was going. And I was like, I felt like the emotional high, and I was like, yeah, I'm jazzed for a workout. Like we're going to do this. We did some things around the house that I was just like dragging my feet about because I was like in a good emotional state. Right. But then there can be that day, where it's not that bad today, but if it's colder and rainy,
yeah,
and things just aren't going my way, like that's where the discipline of things comes into play, right?
exactly.
And that's where you build those habits that I've heard you talk about a number of times. And that's kind of how you create discipline, is by building these habits over a period of time, and doing the things that you don't want to do because you're not emotionally with it, right?
Absolutely.
So
What helps you the most? Like, when like what helps you the most to get in that like mental state where you're just like killing it? Like, what has been the best? I know we talked about it just a little bit here and there, but what do you feel like is the best for you? The best motivator for you?
um I've built I've just built habits, man. Like I've built daily disciplines where I know like I'm the guy that gets up at 5 to 5:30 every morning, like even during this quarantine. My wife's like, well, why don't you sleep in? Because I'm the guy that gets up,
Yeah.
right? And I'll fill that time, either fill it with, and I do the same stuff that I used to. Like I'm not going to the boot camp at 6 a.m.,
Yeah.
but I'm filling it with purposeful, intentional things throughout my day, because I have that time, whether it's taking some me time. People don't give themselves enough me time, and that's not a selfish thing. If you're giving yourself self-care, like you're able to give out more to everyone else.
100%.
So I like to have my coffee, by myself. That first cup of coffee is amazing. I like to meditate in the morning. It doesn't take a long time. I've gotten into some morning walks. Where it's kind of like a mindset thing.
Yeah.
I can play through like what's going to happen through and visualize during the day what's going to happen. Preparation food wise, right?
Mm,
That's important.
yeah.
Preparation for the homeschooling, I can get in some work that I may not have been able to do beforehand. So from that time, from like 5 to 5:30 to 7 to 8 o'clock, when the rest of my household is like super productive for me and very intentional. And if it's not cold out and raining, a lot of times I will be working out.
Yeah.
But it's building habits over time. And then throughout the day, like I have breakfast at the same time, then we do schooling, and then I do lunch at the same time, and I work out pretty much. And it's been an adjustment, and I'm the type of guy that if I'm thrown off my schedule a little bit, I can get thrown off emotionally. But I have made the decision in my head, like I'm the guy that does work out. I'm the guy that does get up early. I'm the guy that's going to meditate every morning. I'm the guy that's going to do like gratitude in the evening. I'm the guy that I've just made that decision, and I don't budge from that. And it's been hard work. It's just like training your muscles,
Mm.
training your mind. But you know, I like you said, I like to surround myself with like-minded people.
Yeah.
So the people on my Instagram, that it's not negativity, right? It's very motivational. You'll see like Gary V and like Tony Robbins and a lot of these trainers. And as I scroll through, like I'm just like you. Like I start to feel energy,
Right.
from
Right.
things. Um, yeah, I'm very much, I'll wear my emotions on my sleeve. But I've also built habits that will continue to keep me disciplined when I'm not feeling at my
Yeah.
utmost, the best.
Yeah, dude, that's huge, man. The discipline. I think, well, first I'll backtrack. Like taking time for yourself, like I've said this. I made a video about this before, but like, dude, you can't, that, like, you can't pour from an empty bucket, man. If you don't have your shit
Nah,
straight, you can't help other people.
that's
It's not
true.
selfish, man. It's like I say this quote all the time, but like you are the only person you will spend 100% of time with in your life. Like that person's got to be on top of their shit. Like you got whatever makes you tick, whatever makes you be in the right mindset. Like you got to find that for yourself. That's not selfish, bro. That's like, so I love that. I'm not surprised that you have an awesome morning routine and that you have the discipline to do all that stuff. But that's one thing, man. You are a disciplined dude. But I think like it's cool to see how your discipline's carried over from like your workouts to like your health to like it just if you're disciplined, super disciplined in one thing, like I believe that will carry over to the next and like find some stuff that like you said, start small, but find stuff that you can build that habits and build that discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, because dude, you're by far one of the most disciplined people I know. No bullshit, dude. When I see you eating healthy and when I see you working out hard, like that shit transfers over. So, like, I think you made a ton of great points there. Like, have good people around you, man. Like, have some sort of stimulus that gets you in the right mindset, whatever that is for you. And then the last one is just like build habits so you can be disciplined, bro. Like,
Yeah.
amen. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really found like foundational principles, right? So like if we're talking workouts, if you're going to do a workout, you should probably have some sort of squat pattern, some sort of hip hinge pattern,
Right, right.
a push, a pull, and then like some core, right? Like doesn't matter what it is, but you throw that variation in there, you got a good workout,
Yeah,
right? For me, like nutrition wise, like it doesn't matter where I am. My youngest son and I, we were on I think we were at WISP this past year, and we went in for lunch, and I heard a lot from my clients that were going out on vacations, and they're like, well, we're going to go out to the bars and blah blah blah. Well, it's the same thing as like a workout, right? Like if you're going to build a plate, you're going to have some protein there, right? You're going to have a small level of starch. You're going to have majority veggies. You're going to have a healthy fat. You're going to have some fruits, right? Every place that you go has that. McDonald's has that,
yeah,
right? So there's no real excuse, right? You can get a protein, you can get some salad, you can get some veggies, you can get a starch, or you don't have to have it. They have fruit there. They got a healthy fat. They got milk. You can add some cheese. Like that's there. So it's pretty simple. You get that stuff where else?
yeah.
And then you add in, a certain level of sleep, a certain level of water, and you're a pretty healthy person.
Hmm. Absolutely, bro. All right, I want to be super respectful of your time, so let's finish out with
Yeah.
one thing. So this is what I basically call like the one thing, but if you could just tell people one piece of advice that you've learned throughout your life or one thing of value to give to people listening, just one thing to leave with them, what would it be?
Oh man, the one thing.
The one thing. I know this is you told me about the book, The One Thing, but
I know
I
that
always like
is
to
a good book.
I always like to finish. Well, I'll let you think while I talk, but I always think about or I always like people to say their one thing because everybody like has a different life experience and they've learned so much stuff of value. So it's so cool at the end of these things, these podcasts, doing like a one thing of value. So go ahead, man. What you got one?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, and this has been kind of like a motto of mine recently. It's just show up.
Mm,
Just show up, and for me, that's just taking action, right? Um, you'll figure it out along the way. You always do. Just like your podcast, you probably didn't know what to do at first, just like me. I didn't know anything
yeah.
about training. I didn't know anything about being a dad, but they just gave me these kids,
Yeah,
So
man.
you just got to show up, man. Just show up every day, and you'll eventually get to where you want to be. You just got to keep showing up.
Amen, bro. That's perfect. Because I haven't heard of that one yet, but I know like you saying that, like that's T Swags right there. All right, go ahead and plug all your stuff. Where can people find you online? Where can people get your gear? Everything.
Yeah, so my website is www.travisj, just the letter, clay, clay.com. That's my website. You can get all the information with regards to my training methods. Right now, I am doing a big push on Express Training, which is my online virtual platform. It's all at your fingertips via an app on your smartphone. Customized programs based upon fitness level, time availability, equipment availability is very important.
Yeah.
We have customized programs. You will have demonstration videos, tracking ability, nutritional awareness. And you can find me via Facebook and at Travis J. Clay, and then Instagram at tclay2021.
Boom. Do yourself a favor. Follow Travis online. You post what? A workout like almost every day, if not every day.
Yeah, there are the free Friday workouts that are consistently on there.
Oh yeah.
I do post every Tuesday and Thursday variations of workouts, and then you can join me Monday and Wednesday for Warrior Talk. In addition to introducing you guys to some of my clients and
Sweet.
their fitness journey.
Sweet. Check Trav out. Buy some of his swag. They don't call him Travis
Yes.
Swaggy for a reason. He's got the best swag on the market. Dude, I really appreciate your time, man. You're the man. We'll stay in touch.
Yes,
But stay
sir.
safe, man. Tell the family I said what's up. And, man, have a good one, Trav.
Thank you for having me, bro. I appreciate it. Let's do this again for
Anytime.
real.
Let's do it, man. Anytime. We'll hop on here. I'm sure. I'm hoping people are going to like this episode, man. So it'll be good, man. Anytime.
All right, bro. You take
Word,
it
bro.
easy. Be safe. Be
Later,
safe.
Trav. You too.